Okay. Hello. Hello. Oh, hi. We have Rayok here as well. Cool. Uh, okay. So hello everyone. Welcome to the next session with TM, and today is gonna be a very interesting session as well, where we're gonna start talking about standard. Just do a little bit of introduction. You already know me, so I will skip it, but I will let Meg to introduce herself as well.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Meg. I'm the current MCVT MOD of ISAC in Myanmar, but also part of the steering team and under the subgroup that's been part of the process of creating the MXP standard. So super excited and hope you learn a lot about the how we're gonna move forward for TM in the next time. Okay, back to me.
Yes, amazing. Thank you, Meg. Okay, so today, for the objective of today, we're gonna understand three things. First, I'm gonna explain for you about the connection between these elements of the standard. So you used to see many elements that I launching in the product, right? Then how it's gonna connect to it. Second, you're gonna understand about the three key fear and the six big element into this fear. And then Matt gonna explain for you about the standard, and then we're gonna understand about the timeline later as well. So this is gonna be everything that you're gonna understand. So what expectation for today is, if you have any question about clarification, you can add in the chat, or we're gonna open the space for clarification question in this space. But if you have any question for implementation, then we're gonna have the space in SOB, which is the next section, and also we're gonna have change management session so that you can have time to asking about implementation part. Is it okay? Cool. Now I think we can start it. Before we start, I just want to do a quick question for you. You can let me understand, okay? How do you think about the team standard? Do you think which part of team standard is relevant and which part is not relevant? So you can tell me and you can let me know in the chat, or you can open your mic and share. Fifty-fifty. So half relevant, half not relevant. Can you explain, Eddie?
Okay, so I think for the half relevant is I think we really have closing and like building state standards, like for example transitions and stuff. I think those are really relevant. But like what are not relevant would be some of the standards in the performance stages. I think we were too much focused on achieving our operational goals rather than focusing on our members' experience and what they want to achieve out of their experience.
Also makes sense. Cool. How about other people? You can type in the chat. Okay, it's fine. I guess that everyone have similar concern, right? And like everyone think it's 50-50. Yeah. In AB, everything is 50-50. In other region, or they like it or they don't like it. Okay, now it's fine. Let's skip this question. I want to ask you now, if you are a member and you have a lot of reason why you join, why you stay, and why you apply for higher role in ISAC. So I want to understand that, do you think what are the factors that affect to your experience and development in ISAC? So you can also type and you can also share.
I can share.
Yeah, go.
I'm not answering because I feel conflicted if I should answer the questions or not, because I know. But this one I can answer because I feel one factor, or like factors for me for taking the high role, was very simple. It was mostly how care or supported I felt with my environment or in my local committee. If I felt that, okay, I'm feeling loved and cared and supported because I really value those things, then I thought that, okay, this is a good nurturing environment for me, and I am growing as well. And so that is how I can, take a further role and give back the exact experience to someone else. So I think that was, at least for me, like of contributing.
That's cool. I also see someone like creating impact, giving back the love, a brushing skill. Yeah. Wait, I cannot see a chat. Wait. 1 second. I want to visit. Oh, people is one of the main reasons why I apply for higher role and stay longer in Isaac. Yeah, I think it's also similar with Freya because if you connect to her LC. And beside that, this is my belief that I will grow with this organization and that Isaac will help me grow with both professional and this is the impact of member within the entity. Cool. Impact is spirit and I want to contribute back to the organization. That's why I stay and apply opportunity to keep learning to develop skill more in depth. Cool. I really like your learning or your sharing and learn new skill and function. Skill. Yes. I think that I like your sharing and I think that it really makes sense for other people, for different people. We're gonna have many different reasons why we apply for a higher role in Isaac. But then when the reason why I'm asking you this question is it's also the same question when we're asking ourselves when we're working on the team standard and we see that actually the team leader is not the only factor that affect to one people experience because this is something that we found from the last year GST research and they say that, and there's one fact that team leader is not the only factor. There are more than just team leader that affect to one people experience and because there are more than just one environment around the team leader. So that's why if we put every responsibility on team leader, then it's gonna be too many. So these are the gaps that we found in the team standard. So the first part that I want to let you understand is the team standard is still makes sense a lot in many scenario in many experience because I also see I also see that a lot of my friends when they're working in a company as well they also share that their team leader is doing team standard and then they think it makes sense. I think that team standard is still makes sense, but also team standard is not enough because if we put every KPI on the team leader, then the team leader is handling a big responsibility of making a good experience for the member. Meanwhile, we can actually share the workload and then there are more factors around it that other people need to contribute together. So this is something that we found a gap into it. And that is also the reason why we design the team standard into um, different way. There's a lot of things that we consider when we design the team standard differently right now. But then one thing that we consider is we need to ensure that on standard need to facilitate the in and outer journey of member so that it can help the member leadership development happen. And which means that we will, if we consider in this part and we consider more factor, we could not call it team standard. We have to call it another name, which is member experience standard. So that is something that's different in here. Yeah, we need to consider more factor around it and we need to ensure that the team standard is a promise. And I think that this is something that very clear and hope it can be very clear for you because I remember that we do a lot of good promotion on the social media and then we're talking, okay, Isaac is really amazing. And if you're joining, you're gonna learn this one. You can have a personalized experience. So everything that we talk in a valuable position about, okay, if you come here, you can have a personalized experience, you have relevant skill, you learn relevant knowledge, you can see a measurable leadership development, and you can connect the local in the local and also the global network of people and partner as well. So everything that we put in the valuable position have to be the promise that we deliver for our member exactly like what we are saying. And everything that we design for the member experience standard is gonna reflect on the value proposition that we are promised to our customer. It's gonna reflect our unique selling point. So I just want to let you understand the connection between all of the elements that we already have. At first, we come to you with the ASEC member and you saw, okay, this is the direct impact that we need to focusing on. And then we're giving you the global persona and also explain for you how you're gonna customize the global persona into the local context, how you can create, how you can use the persona to design the journey for your member. And also we also in you about the member journey and the funnel. And then in here, you understand how you're gonna managing the funnel by realized timeline, by duration, and also by each stage of the funnel. And this is about everything that's gonna contribute to our ISAC member as a whole. But then as TM, how we can make this burn happen, how we can make this journey happen. Everything that TM gonna do is gonna reflecting on the member experience standard. Okay, so in the member experience standard, it's similar with exchange standard that you used to see. What is something that the exchange people they need to do to make this persona and this journey, this funnel happen. So we're gonna have the standard here, and this is the role of TM. And as global, we're gonna giving you the global minimum of, okay, in this standard, what are the minimum of definition of done that you need to make it happen. But then we will not go deeper into what is the SOP, because we believe that SOP or other process or other framework, it should be belong to the role of you to decide on it. And also as global, we're gonna giving you the framework and also the supporting tool that we collect from last year, and we also like consider that we can working on creation of some new tool and framework that we think that it can help you to adapt with the new member journey implementation, so that we can give it for you as supporting tool. But then we also, again, we will not restrict you in how you use the tool. You can create your own one. You can use anything that you do as long as you ensure the standard is happening. So which means the global minimum is gonna be the minimum line between the global and also the entity. And it's also the minimum between you, the TM with the member who you deliver the standard as well. So we're gonna use this one to understand whether we are doing good or not. Okay. And now let's go into the standard, and I will explain into it, and you can have time to understand like scope by scope into it. Okay, so when you want to design any standard for any people, you need to understand what are the factors affect to one people experience. So I'm asking the same question that I'm just asking you now. So when we're asking a lot of questions, we see that there are three groups of factors that gonna affect to one people experience, right? So the first one, the experience of member gonna happen between the interaction from the interaction between the member with other teammate and a second. Second, the experience gonna happen from the interaction between member with the working environment. And the experience gonna happen when the interaction between member with the work and the task gonna happen. So if these three kind of interaction happening, then a member they can have a good or bad experience. So based on these three fear, we break it down into, okay, what should be the key element into it, and what should be the thing that it's gonna reflect into the standard right now. And here is the six scope of the element in the standard that you can see when we break it down into here. So right now, I want you to look into the middle part, and you can see six scope of it. And you can also see the intersect part of 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so I will explain for you about it. So first, when you're talking about number one, the work fear, then the work fear is like whether your member can decide on their job, or what is gonna be the job design for them, what gonna be the influence that they can have on the job, how they can take ownership for the job, how they can have commitment for the job. So everything that we design for the job is gonna belong to the first scope of element. But then also, if we want to make them perform the job well, then we also need to support them to with the job support, how they can implement the JD, how they can do the best with the JD that we design for them. Okay, and in the number 3, community. So community is about ISAC network. So how we can create a community that allow the people to interact and learn from each other. And number 4 is the supporting thing to make the community happen. So you can understand the number 4 like a channel to make the community happen. I will explain deeper in the next slide. But then you can look into number 5. So number 5 about physical fear. So it's gonna be about environment and well-being. So which means that every interaction between member and the well-being environment is gonna create affect to the experience as well. And you can see the number 6. So number 6 is the intersect part, and is I believe that number 6 is something that very similar to what we used to know, which is the team standard. So number 6 is quite similar to the team standard, but then we arrange it into the way that it allow more, it's talking more about development, engagement, and it's putting on the timeline of the experience of member, not just performing. So as you can see here, which is right now, we still have a part, like we still have team standard inside this part. But then the team standard is just a single one part of it. We still have 6 more key elements that we need to taking care for, and we need to understand more about it. And also right now, let's look at the circle that putting around it. So when we deliver the standard, this is just the what we need to do. The standard is what we need to do. But how we gonna do it? How we gonna shape it? Because actually we can put this standard into any company, but then the difference between this company and this organization with other people is gonna be defined by the strategy, direction, and the value, the culture. And it's also reflect in the LC as well. So for example, in different LC, you're gonna have different culture, different strategy. In all different entity, you're gonna have different strategy and culture. So sometimes you can see a little bit different in here, but then as the whole organization, the key direction and strategy that we're gonna shape when we deliver the standard is it's gonna based on our vision and the roadmap 2025. How we can deliver the standard for members so that these people can have a good experience, and it's shaped by the direction and the strategy of ISAC 2025 and our vision. In local, you can also have the local strategy that is shaped the standard when how you deliver the standard of people. And also it's similar with the value and the culture. So as globally, we need to ensure that everything that we deliver is follow with the leadership values, and is also follow with the whole organization culture. But also in the local context, you can have very different culture in different entity and LC, and it's make the standard and it make the experience of people being diversified. It make the experience of people is a little bit different among different contexts. So this is how you can understand about it. Now I will explain a little bit deeper into its scope of it so that you can understand the scope of it, so that before you go into the standard, then you can understand what is it going to be about. Okay, so I talk about the job design, right? So in the job design, the end goal that we want to achieve is not about clearly talking about, okay, member, you need to working in this number of working hour. You need to ensure that you go to the office by this day, for example. No, it's not. It's just about how we can ensure that the job right now, it fit with the individual goal and the organizational goal. It can ensure that member can take ownership on the influence on the job decision, and then the most important thing, they can have ownership for their job. That is the most important thing when we design the job for them, not about the restrict things. Wrong animation, but you can look at number 2. So number 2 for the job support is basically, okay, if I want to allow my member to make the JD happen right here, then what gonna be the job support? It could be everything about skill, knowledge, information, or in some case, it's also gonna be about the agreement in alignment, or sometimes it could have a contracting in some case as well, especially when you are EP. And then in the community, so basically the final goal of community is like we see that the relationship that we create could sustain the member individual performance, effective working culture. Because imagine that you put a new member into a LC that have a good working culture, then these people can have a good working culture similar with the LC. And because of they have a good working culture being affected by the LC community, then they can improve their efficiency, they can improve their productivity. So which means that what we are doing at TM is not, okay, boosting member to do more, it's not. How we can improve productivity is create a community that have a good working culture, have a good performing effectiveness, so that members can learn from each other. And also community can have to shape the perspective of a people about the whole organization. So if you go to international conference, every LC you meet, they're gonna have different, but they're gonna have different opinion about they're gonna have different culture or something, and the interaction between you when you meet them, then it's gonna create a perspective about the organization. Or if you put a member into a toxic community in some place, in some region, LC, MC, then the member gonna have a toxic mindset. But if you put them in a nice environment, then they're gonna have a good mindset and environment about ISEC as well. Cool. So also the community engagement is like basically it's like the channel that allow you to make this space of community happen. Environment and well-being is like when we think about because the environment and the well-being can actually impact on the member efficiency and experience as well. So imagine that if the member they are going to the office and then they see a dirty office and then they cannot work properly, they cannot work efficiency. So it also contribute to productivity again. So which means productivity is not like we boosting them to do more, but then it also affected by the environment that we having here. Or for example, if the member they feel burned out and they feel not healthy, they have the problem with their mental health, and we push them to do more, then it's not gonna going well anywhere. So we need to taking care for the well-being and also mental health as well. And also for the team practice, everything about what's gonna happen inside the team. So for example, in the community, it's the interaction between member with the whole asset network, but we also need to taking care for the interaction between member and the teammate, the team leader. So it's gonna be everything about the team practice and they need to work with member in the team to create a good learning circle for member inside the team. So these are the 6 scope of it. But then in this scope of it, you can see we break it down into standard by standard. And in total, we have 16 standard of member experience. We didn't try to make it like 16, but then in a coincidence, it's become 16 like other exchange program. And we hope that this number is easy for you to understand. And under every standard, you're gonna see the global minimum as well. And global minimum, again, is gonna be the only thing that we give for you as a standardized bar to understand what you need to do, but then you're gonna be the one to decide on your SOP or process or framework or so on. Okay. So I think now Meg gonna start to help me to explain about standard by standard, and then you can also have time for clarification. Okay. Cool. Now Meg, you can go.
Okay, all right. So it's time to go to the nitty-gritty. But before I start, I want to see who are excited to see the standard and also who are nervous to see the standard. So put a heart if you're excited. Put a thumbs up if you're nervous, because definitely I'm feeling both. It's a big change, and I'm excited for you guys to see it. See, there's someone nervous. It's okay. It's normal. There's heart. Okay, all right. So we'll start with the first scope, which is job design, right? How we package or how we design the job in the first place would dictate the entire experience of the member. And for us to be able to create
Can you
a
speak
good,
louder a bit?
sorry. So for us to be able to have a good job design, there are 2 standards that will allow us to do so. First is to have the job description. So next slide, please, me. Right. So in job description, it's basically what the members should be expecting with regards to their workload or their MX or their entire experience. So with JDs, we have to design it based on the persona of the member, how it could fit towards their personal strengths, personality, team roles, and motivations even. We should also design it based on their individual goals and organizational goals as well, right? In turn, if we're able to do this, it will allow the members to feel more connected to the organization and see how their role is able to contribute to the bigger picture of the organization. Right. So here, commitments, routines, clarity, MOS, KPIs, accountabilities are all stated. And next, you know how we're concerned, how we're sort of more achievement oriented. This is how we want to change things, and we want to focus also on the development part, which is what the second standard will provide, which is personal development evaluation. So here, throughout the entire journey, so approved, realized, and completion, all of that, it will fall under that standard. And then here, members are able to see their development throughout the journey, right? So here, the development path of the members is defined and also evaluated at each stage. So their improvement points, what they're frustrated about, motivation, activities that will help support this development will be under this part. And also we'll have the leadership survey on the Google platform as well to help sort of evaluate and measure their development. Right. With that, we'll go to the next part, which is the next scope, which is the job support. So now we have the design of the job, and now we have to think about what are the things we need to prepare to be able to support the job and for our members to be able to actually do the job, right? So first and foremost, at the very start, the very get-go of our members, we have transition. So we're very familiar with this. This is in team standards, right? So these are all the knowledge that they need to be able to know before they start their experience. So the reports, materials, tools, everything, information, capacity building, practical tasks. Also, of course, past performance, so that we'll be able to know what are the things we need to move forward with. And of course, for our newbies, very, very important standard, which is the onboarding delivery. Right. So, and this onboarding needs to be done at a certain period of time. So we have to be very careful about that. And it, of course, it will be containing the basic information about ISEC. So vision, culture, direction, personal values, organizational values that will allow our members to feel connected to it. And responsibilities, benefits of their role, what they'll be learning in the role, and how they'll be able to engage, and what are the touch points that will be needed for them to first engage with their community. All right, so next standard is the educational cycle. So very similar to the standard personal development valuation, the educational cycle will be delivered within the entire MXP. So approved, realized, completed education is very important. So this is for them to be able to get knowledge, skill set, and at the touch point also for them to be able to access whatever resources hub we have, whether it's global or local. So that's very important. So that not just on our part in terms of how we deliver to our members, but also members will be able to do it themselves and learn by themselves as well. And of course, very important to be able to measure whether this educational cycle is relevant, it's effective, and etc. Okay, so before we move on to the next two scopes, do you guys have any clarifications, questions? Yes, no, if no, you can wave. Okay, good so far. All right, so we're gonna go to the next scope, which is the community. So this entails all the engagement touch points of our members. So it's very, very important because with these engagements, these are actually what will help the members feel more connected to the organization and in the long run stay in the organization, right? Okay, next slide, please. So the first standard we have is the network of our members. So this is called social networking. So this involves all the different groups of people that the members will be having touch points with, and us to be able to clearly define this. So internal, LCMC, regional, global, external, alumni network, BD partner, local, and global, right? So aside from members being able to understand the different touch points or different groups, they have to be able to understand also what are the different activities for each group and understand that although we're a very diverse network, we're also very united, especially with regards to our culture. Okay, and this part, it will be able for members to see that this is where the cross-cultural understanding happens, not just in exchange, but also within our network as well. And cross-organizational learning that will in turn boost the individual satisfaction of members towards the organization, right? And the next standard is very, very important. So in a certain community, there should be certain set of rules for people to adhere to. So these are, for example, the organizational culture, behavior, ethical code. So there are minimums, which is like ISEC values, ISEC qualities. These are the things we know. But also with regard to the different cultures, there we can also adapt, and it varies. Whatever additional rules we have changes depending on the LC, the culture, the entity, the country, and etc. Of course, with this, aside from having rules that needs to be followed, we also should have a set of rules that should be applied towards people who are not following them, right? So this is to protect the people within our community. All right, next slide, please. Next is, I've discussed how we have certain communities, right? Next would be the question, how do we engage with these communities? So this is the scope that will answer that. The first is the community channel. these are the channels that allow us to communicate to our stakeholders, to our network. So for example, this is like Xpass, Slack, Telegram, Facebook, announcements. All those information cascaded should be well defined within the community channel, and also not just a one-way communication, but in this part, members should be able to be encouraged to speak out and share their stories, opinions, and whatever they want to say, and basically their voice inside the community. And next slide, please. Next is the actual community engagement itself, right? So TM, TL, and EV together build certain activities for the communities to engage with each other. Examples of this would be our campaigns, our R&Rs, our local conferences, how we connect to alumni, and whatever campaigns that will allow us to engage with each other will fall under this standard. All right. So before we go to the next, since we're done with the two scopes with regarding community, do you guys have any clarifications, questions?
Yes, I do have some.
All right.
Like for social networking standard, like can you give us some example of it? Like how are we going to deliver it?
For example, LCM is a social networking standard that will, or activity that will fall under the network. Conferences. Oh yeah, go ahead. You can elaborate.
Okay,
also.
I can explain about this. Nice. So for example, you're gonna let the member understand that, okay, in the induction, you're gonna introduce, okay, we're gonna have regional activity, LC activity, and MC activity. Also, we're gonna have alumni activity. And this is the alumni network of ISEC in Myanmar. And these are the activities that they're gonna have. And this is how you're gonna engage with them. So it's basically that you introduce to them, like, what are the activity of this crowd of people and how can you engage with them. But then if you want them to engage with the alumni, then you need to have the channel. So for example, you're gonna connect, create an account for them in the group with the alumni, for example, so that they can connect with the alumni and they know how they can talk with the alumni. And also you're gonna, if you want them to engage with, you want to boost the alumni engagement, then you can have the campaign about connect with your alumni as mentor, for example. So the social networking space is like you introduce to them and you let them understand what are the activity of this group of people, what are the benefits if you engage with them, what you can learn from them, how you can engage with them. But if you want to boost any networking, social networking to happen, then you need to have the channel and the campaign that you are working in here. Yeah. So that is the difference.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
Any other questions? None. Okay, so we'll proceed to the final two scopes of the new standard, which is first, right, there's also concerns brought up about how we're very goal-oriented, or we're only looking about our goals and not really caring about our members. So this standard or this scope basically will be the one that addresses that. For our members to be able to be productive and be happy in the organization, we have to be able to craft that sort of environment and well-being for them to be able to do so, right? So first standard would be basically the workspace, the space within the or the members engage with the organization. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So being able to define this workspace is very important. Okay, for example, in physical, do you need a work desk, a meeting room, meeting at a cafe, at team house, etc. If virtual, what platform? Is it going to be like conference platform or a team brainstorming platform like Miro, Padlet, right? And also not just defining these workspace, but also consistently measuring if the workspace that you're doing or using is contributing to team and individual efficiency. And next is the very newer standard, but very, very relevant to our current context right now, which is mental health and well-being. So we have to be able to provide that space or craft that space for them to be healthy as a person as well. So, so we have to ask our members what are the support we can give in terms of mental health and well-being that will help their experience be best, right? and define that together, and then inform the members about the certain activities that we can provide or not provide for them during this time. That's concerned again with their mental health and well-being. So activities can be different depending on the context, depending on what your members or your culture needs. So examples would be coaching or mentorship program, a mental health campaign, or maybe delivery of therapy to support well-being. So it depends on your entity how you're gonna customize that. And of course, reviewing this on a monthly basis to be able to see how healthy mentally or physically your members are feeling. All right, let's go to the last scope, which is team practice. So this part is very, very similar to team standards, but you can see there's sort of a little differences. Building and closing part, very, very similar, but the performing is changed so that it's just not a unilateral thing or more performance driven, but also like encompassing everything. Okay, so to start, team building, of course, is very, very first touch point of our members. We know how important this is. Defining a team plan, so that's team goals, values, rules, team behaviors, name, strategies, team development plan, team resource, budget, timeline, productivity, implementation, routines, accountability, system, performance touchpoint. Right. Okay. And next we go. This is more of in the realization part. So first is how are we going to engage our members within the team? So team engagement. So making sure we conduct engagement spaces within our team to boost their connection and also support for their teammates. It will also help us build collaborative and supportive relationships among teams and enhance the learning experience. So examples of these in activities will be team days, team bonding, team working hours, team learning circles, team coaching, O2O, and so on. Right. And the next is the more performance oriented. So this part is related to performing part of team standards, team performance. This part will allow us to conduct team performance. It could allow us or allow members to understand their contribution to the work and reflect individual efficacy, right? So this would include feedback system, results evaluation, performance monitoring, achievement tracking, review reports, and so on. Next is we promise that our members, when they come into the organization, there's a sort of growth that they'll get out of it. So this standard will make sure of that. So team development. So here we can leverage learning circles within the team, contribute to team performance, both allow their members to see that there's some sort of growth happening within them, within that MXP, right? So examples would be creation of a team coaching plan of action, creation of an individual coaching plan of action targeted towards like personal or functional development plans, depending on how you're gonna customize it. Some activities suggested is some simulation spaces, soft skill sessions, lead sessions, open forum spaces, and etc. And lastly, very important, you guys know this, team closing. Of course, it allows the members to close and debrief the entire experience as well as their achievement within their team and reinforce that team engagement and being able to reflect on that development that they have within the team or throughout the experience. So these include implementation of team debriefing, so reporting on results, team development review, feedback on entire MXP, transition documentation, so knowledge and skill transition, document and tool transition, suggestions of ways forward, individual debrief, so final LDA, personal development plan review, and so on. So that's basically our 16 standards. Do you guys have any questions or clarification?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, how can we measure the implementations, whether we are doing it effectively or not?
Okay.
And,
I can.
and are there any KPIs or MOS in each standard?
Yeah. Okay. We do have. So but then we are still in the process of like finalizing it because we see that there are too many KPI. So for each standard, we're gonna have a list of like 1 or 2 KPI to talk about the expected outcome of each standard, like how if you implement this standard, what gonna be the impact that you're gonna have. So based on that part, we can understand like if you have a problem in any funnel, for example, in any KPI, then we can track back to understand what kind of standard that being not delivered. But this one gonna be something that we're gonna release in June, about how we're gonna measure it. Yeah.
Okay. One more thing is that about all of the things related to MXP membership experience, we will implement it in our term, right? Like in August 2021.
Okay. You want to understand about implement, right? I think for implementation, my recommendation is you can break it up into different type of people. So for example, for team leader, you need to recruit them now. So if you think that it's too fast for you to implement this part, then you may not need to implement for them. But then for the next newbie recruitment or for a team member, you think that you still have time to adapt and then training your network to know how to implement this part, then you can apply for the next people. So I think it's gonna be very depend on your entity context. Of course, at global, we expect that you can implement it as soon as possible. But if you need to recruit anyone already and then do something already, then and you think that your TM is not ready yet to deliver these standards for the people is the soon people, then you may not need to deliver for them, but then we're gonna focusing on other people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions as well. So
Yeah. You can go.
Like in previous team standards, like team leaders were responsible for delivering those, right? So for the new MX standards, like who will be responsible for delivering those?
Okay. I think to answer this part, it's gonna be related into the SOB session. And again, we will not like restrict you into who gonna deliver it, but yeah, for example, for the team practice, it should be team leader, but then for community, it should be like team leader and also ED team, TL also do together. So I think it's not restrict into the role of who, but I think that in the SOB session, you can have more clarity on it.
Also, like another question. So in the start, like you mentioned, like we will to focus on like members' experience is solely team leaders' responsibility, right? So you mentioned that in the start, and like so, what will be the new role of team leaders like after this? Like because in the past we regard team leaders as responsible for their members' experience, right? So then like with this new MXP, like do you have any new definition of the team leader role?
I understand your concern. I think it's because in the past, if a team member have a problem, right, then the only people that you come to ask is the team leader. So which means that they have a big responsibility for it. Right now, I think that the workload, it doesn't mean that the workload gonna be like really light for them. Like they still need to deliver some part of it. It's not like and I don't think that the workload of team leaders like or super light right now. But then it's gonna be easier for them in understanding how they can deliver in a better way. And also right now, if a problem with the member experience happen, the people that you're gonna come to ask is not team leader. You're gonna come to ask team leader, AB team, and TM at the same time. So that is the biggest difference. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Leah Kim.
Yes. I have one
Yeah, you
question
can
as
go.
well. Yeah. How do we collect the standard? Is it through the trackers that we used before, like the team standard tracker?
How are we gonna track this, right? I think also again, we will not like restrict you in how you build your own tracking tool. The only thing that you can see is on the platform when the member finish the experience and before they go to the complete, if they want to make the complete, they're gonna have a list of questions on the platform like, did you receive a good support for the workspace? Did you receive something for the workspace? So this is the only thing that as global, we're gonna track when we make the complete happen. But in the middle of the time, you can create your own tracking or your own way of understanding whether this standard is being delivered or not.
All right, thank you. And I
Yeah.
have another
So it
question as
depends
well.
on you.
Yes, I just want to understand about the TM process, right? So for this MX standard, is it the same with the TM process or is actually different? Yeah, because from what I see right now, the elements under the MX standard is quite similar with the TM processes. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I can clarify in this. I think right now we don't have TM process anymore because right now in TM process we have some part of it is like similar with the standard and some part of it similar with like the job that you need to do in SOB and some part of the TM standard is similar with the I know the CAM bench. Like for example, you need to working on the keep strategy, right? But then it's not really clear like keep the whole big strategy. It's not like uh, it's really not like how to say. So basically, the team standard right now is a combine of a lot of things, and then it's huge. So that's why we will no longer have TM process anymore. But wait, I can show you. Yeah, we will have no longer have TM process. We also don't have team standard anymore. We only have MX standard, and everything that TM do is gonna based on the timeline. So in the last session, there's one thing is everything that TM gonna do based on the timeline of member journey. Everything that TM tracking gonna based on the funnel of member funnel tracking, and the standard and the experience is gonna based on this experience delivery. So we will no longer talking about TM standard. Yes, because TM standard is not relevant and it have many gaps to be honest. So for example, the key process is something that happened along the way. It's not really talking about when in the peak of key process, for example. So it's create a confusion. And if anything in TM, it create confusion for you, it will not allow you to know how to implement it. Yeah, Carol, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe some addition. It's not that some things are not going to exist anymore. It's just that the way it was organized, the standards, we are trying to make the connection between all the elements. So some of them, you guys will see that they are more obvious, that they are team standards, or maybe they're part of the team processes. But overall, the idea is to make more clear how we should work with people. Because before, everyone was seeing team standards as one thing and team processes as another. No one was creating the connection between all of the things we were doing. So now all of these things, they are reorganized to make more sense. Some of them for sure are more obvious than the others, but overall we still have the essence of the things. It's just that we are reorganizing them to make more sense and to actually have a flow. So in this case, no one will feel lost in when to do the things because it's more clear how it should be implemented.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I also agree with Carol and Mac. In here, you can see that you can see some element of team standard and team process is still reflecting in the MSP KPI. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Gia, Kim, you can go.
Yeah, thank you. Just out of my curiosities, right? How about the clarity of who under the Isaac context? Is it still relevant? Yeah, because under the context, right, it says that an Isaac received team standard and then at the end of the day to build up the LDQs, right? So is this still relevant to the new term?
Which one? Which one's relevant?
For clarity of who?
I know what he means. Because in clarity of who we have, what is the path of a member. So technically, a member living the team standards, developing the competencies, and so on. So it's more related with the Isaac way, in a sense. I don't think this one we actually had any updates being done. So maybe it's going to be one of the things that we are going to need to consider updating as well.
Yeah, correct. I can do update on it. So right now we are working in as global. We are working on the reflecting of like leadership, competency, and value. So which means that we will no longer have a set of competency only for TM, but only for member. But we're gonna have a set of value and competency for the whole ISAC. And there are some competency that gonna make sense for member. Some competency is gonna make sense for all the EAD. Sorry, or the ELD product. And when you deliver the standard, every standard that you are seeing here, it actually contribute to the inner and outer journey. So some element is reflect on the inner journey, some element is reflect on outer journey. Like for example, personal development evaluation is something that is connect between the inner and outer journey of a member. So when you deliver the standard, this standard facilitate inner and outer journey. And when inner and outer journey is the moment where the leadership gonna happen. And the second update is when we have the new refresh of team leader, no, leadership development, value and competency. Then we're gonna have also a guide on the blueprint. So in here, I talk with you about the blueprint, right? So the blueprint gonna be how the team leader and executive board and everyone in the organization can empower the member to become a leader. So everything that you see in standard is the what, but then how you can actually do it and shape their way of developing in leadership is gonna be inside the blueprint, that in the list page that we deliver for them. Yep. So um, everything will be finalized by June, including the tracker measurement. Okay. So by June, what we're gonna give for you is we're gonna give for you based on its standard, what are the expected outcome KPI. So that based on here, you can working on, you can understand, okay, if you deliver this standard, how, what gonna be the impact you can see. Second, in terms of SOB, you're gonna be the one to working on the SOB. We will no longer have any more than just than the global minimum. So you're gonna base on the global minimum, you decide your SOB. And also in some, this is the timeline of the standard. And in some state, you can see that there is no standard in the first stage, for example. Then, which means in this stage, you still need to have your own SOP. But we don't need to, we don't have a standard here. What AI gonna track is just the global, like the funnel KPI here. And the second thing that we're gonna give for you in June is the framework and the tool. But this is not like we create something new, but we are Carol team in working on collecting all of the GCP in the past, and also understand how we can create a simple tracker that allow you to tracking the experience of member, and we can give you at the sample at example for it. But also, again, you're gonna be
It's
the one
15
who
hours.
working on the measurement. Yep, I think it's clear for you. Cool. Thank you for the question. Luis, oh shit, we don't have time. Luis, you can ask.
Okay, I want to ask how is this MX standard related to our pipeline for the next generations? For example, we have the TM process, the keep we can create succession planning, but we don't have a TM process anymore. So how this standard can support us in creating pipeline and manage our pipeline?
Okay. Okay. I will answer in 1 minute because we don't have time. So basically, when you deliver the standard, for example, when you deliver the job design, it actually reflects on two things: productivity and also the engagement, the commitment of member. Or when you create a community, it's also going to affect to the working culture of member, and it's also affect to how they the connection between the member with the organization. Or when you create a team engagement, team environment, or taking care for their well-being, it's also affect to whether they can have a good experience or not with the working environment. So everything you are do, so the kit is not something that it have a timeline. The kit it happen in the whole journey when you deliver for them. Even when you do recruitment, you also have candidate experience in the recruitment. And if you can do a good candidate experience, they can be the one that stay longer with your organization. So everything that we do in the standard, it's gonna reflect on the engagement. It's gonna reflect on productivity at the same time with the personal goal, commitment. And if we can focusing on the commitment of member, then it's gonna affect to whether they're gonna stay for the next term of recruitment or not. And also, yeah, it's reflect on the development as well. So I think time is up, but this gonna be the timeline for you to understand about when the standard gonna be delivered. So based on this timeline, you can see that, yeah, cool. I hope it's clear for you. So based on here, you can see that in some part, we're gonna have standard, but then some part, we don't need to have a standard. So as you can see here, the approval part is gonna be the part that very require a lot of standard to be delivered. And you can look into the timeline here. Based on the timeline here and based on the global minimum, you're gonna working on your own SOP and process and framework on how you want to make this standard happen. And I think that is also the end of the session. I just want you to understand that why we have the standard is about the inner and outer journey, and this is the promise that we're gonna give for member in any promotion. So that's all of the session, and if you have further question, let's meet in the implementation session, okay? Change management and SOP session, okay? Then that's all. See you. Thank you, Mac. Amazing.